everybody. I call to order the September 2023 meeting of the Special Committee on University Relations of the University of Minnesota Board of Regents. Good morning to everyone and welcome to our first meeting as a special committee. Thank you to those joining us in the West Committee Room via Zoom. While today's meeting is not being live streamed, the Zoom recording will be uploaded to the board's YouTube channel after the meeting for archiving. As a housekeeping item, I'd like to note that the West Committee Room has room-wide microphones. These microphones allow any speaker to be heard in the room, in the Zoom meeting, and on the recording. The audio feed will pick up all audio from the room, including conversations you might have. Given that, please try to limit your, I know it's hard for a group of marketing and public relations folks, but given that, try to limit your side conversations, which include those of us around the table and members of the community who are here with us today in the audience. Additionally, regents and presenters, given that we will not use the room's touch-to-speak microphones in front of you, please project when you speak so your remarks are clear on the official record. With that, let's move on to our first agenda item. First, we will review our committee charge and priorities for the year. As a quick refresher, I will read the charge. The Special Committee on University Relations will advance the critical work of building strong relationships within communities vital to the university's success. The Special Committee has oversight of the university's government relations functions at the local, state, and federal levels, as well as efforts to build stronger neighborhood relations in communities where the university is located. The Special Committee will provide the administration with input on the university's public relations efforts, including areas like marketing and brand development. Before I turn it over to Mr. Tombarge, I'd like to outline our plan. Today, we will discuss our ideas in this group and we'll gather input from today's discussions to be incorporated into a committee work plan. The work plan will return to the committee in October. With that, Mr. Tombarge, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes, thank you, Chair Tavi-Rabe. And thank you all for the opportunity to provide some opening comments to inform your conversation. As the Chair mentioned, committee leadership, board staff, and I will use your feedback to build the work plan for the year ahead, and we'll bring that draft back to you in October for consideration. To help guide this next step, we thought it might be helpful to consider how you might structure the special committee approach. And I wanted to offer one framework for consideration, a three-part approach that starts broad and narrows into some specific questions. Part one is where the university fits in the environment. Things like the external and internal influences that affect the university's long-term reputation and how our system shows up in Minnesota communities and among individual stakeholder groups. Part two, then, is how the university's approach is affected by that environment. How do these environmental factors inform the university's approach, whether through media relations, marketing, government relations, or broadly through our entire outreach mission? Also, understanding how the university's decisions play into our reputation is also critical. And part three, what opportunities exist for the board and university to engage in this work? How can the board support this work and engage in meaningful ways that contribute to a positive reputation and maximize the university's mission? How can the board and university be more proactive rather than reactive? Or how can we build stronger connections to Minnesotans and what's important to them? So as you consider what the charge before you means for our work in the year ahead, please also consider the four following questions. One, how can we pursue these topics from a governance and university-wide perspective? I want to thank you for your interest. Your board's interest in these topics is very important. But reinforcing that importance across the institution, lifting our messages and reputation through your leadership, decision-making, oversight, and engagement is really critical to our success. Second, how can the focus on this topic help the institution better align its strategies, approaches, and messages? The university is a huge place, and it's often difficult to align our efforts, particularly when institutional, local, and individual goals don't always intersect perfectly to build our reputation. Structurally, this can be hard at times because not everyone doing communications, media outreach, marketing, issues and crisis management, or government relations, for example, report through the same structures. Question 3, how can we engage with the many teams contributing to the important work of protecting and building the university's reputation? This committee and its name are unique, University Relations. It happens to be the same name as a particular department that I co-lead with Chief Marketing Officer Ann Aronson. But based on the board's discussion so far, I'm hearing that the intent of this special committee is to focus more broadly than on a single department or team. Instead, the work of reputation building by necessity involves many teams across the university, not just the central teams charged with this work, but also teams within units, colleges, and campuses. In fact, your and other leaders' engagements with stakeholders, and frankly, every member of the university's community. We all have opportunities to be advocates for the university and build its reputation. And the final question, how can we minimize risks to the institution? While effective issues and crisis management always requires preparation and good communication, we must be careful in our committee discussions to not create new or unnecessary risks for the university. So with that, I look forward to the committee's discussion this morning and in the year ahead, and hearing your questions and interests so we can work together to draft a work plan, goals, and measures that help you get the most out of this special meeting. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tombarge, for those remarks. I think the floor is open for discussion. Are there any thoughts on what Mr. Tombarge has presented and the questions that he's posing for us?
I'm happy to start.
And I think that we are not using those mics.
Oh, we're not,
right?
you know, I heard you say that. Wow, that is to me right on point and accurate, and the environmental picture, the broad versus narrow, and our role in protecting that and not inadvertently, unintentionally instigating new risks, I think is so important. I'm not sure how we organize our committee work around this, but I think it's right on point, and it's, thank you for, there are so many issues that we've had discussions about to narrow that down. You did a really excellent job.
Regent Farnsworth.
Thank you, Chair. I feel kind of similarly to Regent Davenport, is that I thought that was a nice framing of our, some principles or approach to our work plan. To your point, I don't necessarily have a specific idea at this point, but for instance, knowing that this is new and just looking ahead to our agenda today, one of the things we're going to be talking about is the new system-wide marketing campaign. And so thinking about as the various university departments that would view this committee's work as relevant to them, putting projects or things such as a system-wide marketing campaign for our feedback that you think would be helpful from this group. I would look to the administration and the different units within the administration to think of things that would fit under our charge to be helpful for us to react to. Of course, I have interests, and we all have different interests in things, but even how today was structured, which I guess I don't know how it was structured other than I think what's in front of us is good, and we're having this preliminary discussion. Things like reacting to a marketing campaign. I think looking at our charge, which I was looking at just a little bit this morning, I think the thing that's most specifically named in here is our government relations function. And so I didn't realize it says we have oversight of our function, so whatever that means, I do it more as a partnership than oversight, but we'll get to that in the future agenda item. But that would be kind of my reaction, is really thinking about after our discussion today, what are pieces that would fall under this charge under university relations that would be helpful to get the committee's feedback on, knowing that, especially in the government relations side, but then other things as come up, things will come up, but what would be most helpful for us? So I would almost put the question back towards other units as well, not just before colleagues, but other units that are going to be reacting to this conversation.
Regent Gully?
Good morning. I just want to say a little bit about how excited I am to be part of this committee and to have the opportunity to set the agenda for the work that we're going to do. I want to echo what everyone else has said so far, and just add a little bit of framing to this as a new regent, and say that I've been having a lot of discussions with people and have been doing a lot of thinking about how incredible the University of Minnesota is, and how that doesn't always, we have a great reputation in a lot of ways, but how that doesn't always come through. And I think that, and the other regents have heard me say this in the retreat and other places, but I think that what we're coming up against and what we have to be aware of is not only the things that are happening in the university, but this sort of tarnishing of public institutions is a trend nationwide, and it's been going on for a very long time. And so I think in a lot of ways, what I'm thinking about is how do we situate ourselves within that framework and the sort of narrative that has diminished the significance of higher education, and how do we connect the university not only to what's happening and what's happened in our state, but what will happen in the future? How do we align it so that we're sharing how the work that we do directly at the University of Minnesota impacts our state for decades to come. And one of the ways that I've thought about this a lot is I come from an organizing background, and I think it's incredibly important that we bring sort of an organizing perspective, that we're really thinking and being intentional about how we're building relationships with people who can help us to shape the public narrative around the university, how we're building relationships between faculty and staff and the broader community, how we're engaging people who are on our campuses every single day in conversations about the things that are most important in the university. And so I'm excited to do this, and I don't know where we'll go, but I think this is a really important topic for us to take on, and so thank you to everyone who's here, and I just want to really encourage you to help us with this process and to be part of creating the future that we want to bring to the university and to our state and to our community. So welcome feedback from folks as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Regent Gully. Regent Kenyanya?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really excited that, we have this committee. A couple thoughts. We spent a lot of time talking about this at our retreat. I think even before that, just all of us being aware of the need to engage in this space a little better. When we were discussing at the retreat, I was actually initially wary of having this committee, not because of, not believing in the importance of this, but, I didn't want us, and I don't want us to get in this mindset where we limit university relations to this. We're doing that in every meeting we're having, you know, and whether we're in finance, full board, everything we're doing is we're being ambassadors. And I was just trying to think about how we think about that and what the role of this committee is, but then our role outside of it, the role of our colleagues that aren't on this committee, that are, you know, in the other room. So just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that, but definitely appreciate the need for this forum and this place to think more strategically, you know, to listen to the team, right, the experts and whatnot, and what they're hearing, and also, you know, offer our perspectives. This is one of those situations, I believe, where the board benefits from being made up of people who are from outside the institution. Regent Hips really wanted to be on this committee, but he also wanted to be on academic health. You had to pick one, you know. But if he was here, he'd love to tell you what folks in Perm, you know, the kids in Perm are talking about, right? And I think there's a place and purpose for that. But would just remind us all that this is important, but where we enact what we're saying is really almost everywhere but here. You know, in all our other meetings, all our interactions and things like that.
Thank you, Regent. Regent T. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we're very fortunate to have this committee, and thank you for chairing it. Regent Gully and I went through the state legislature at a time when our for various reasons, our public image was not very good, and there were a lot of news stories about us. At the same time, the legislators were saying, "We see you guys, you know, when you're running for office, and then we never see you again, and we don't have much contact with the university." And they were comparing us to another system and saying, you know, the leader of this other entity is here all the time, answers questions, you know, and et cetera. And so the one thing that bothered me was we had this fantastic message. We had this incredible, it's not big enough, but, you know, we have something worthwhile to tell people, whether it's, you know, the research we do, the scholarship that goes on here, and you know, our history of, you know, changing the world from you know, increasing the world food supply to, you know, our schools of business, our medical school, our law school are all climbing the ladder to higher heights. And I mean, this is a great university, and there's a lot of positive things going on. Those messages don't get out if we shoot ourselves in the foot, which we have a whole new board now, so I know that's going to change, but I think we all are working towards the same goal, which is a positive message to the public, the students, the legislature, and anyway, and we've got a terrific new person in the place of doing government affairs, and a president who is on good terms with legislators, and so it's a moment where we can change the narrative, whether it's marketing or simply making better contacts with the legislature. So glad to be here, and I'm glad the committee got started.
Thank you, Regent Johnson. And I'll just say a few words, and then I'll go to Regent Davenport to wrap us up on this part of the agenda. I want to also just echo my excitement for the committee. I know that we've long talked about just being reactive to things that were happening and the messages around the university. And I think it's just an incredible place that is really important for the whole state, right, in the world, because of the kinds of research and the kinds of reach that we have across the globe, but that message often doesn't come. And what I want to say is it's not just a messaging challenge that we have. It's that I think we're challenged at a time where higher ed is really being challenged with lots of different things. But I also think that, in this state, there is not another higher ed institution that can that we can compare the university to, right? So we are the premier institution, and it's really important. And having been kind of on the community side of the work for a long time, I know that I've certainly benefited from both the academics, the volunteerism, and connections that the university had. I think I've worked with the law school, with Humphrey, with CAHD, like the professors and students, and I think it's really incredible. But I think some of the challenges that we have is that we sometimes don't talk to each other, right? So as you said, the units are kind of doing their things, and then of course government relations is also really important. I know that as a board member, I'm always trying to think about what's the appropriate role for us as a governing body, not just individual citizens who have relationships to our electeds in different ways, but really as good stewards of this university. So I'm excited to hear more about that, and for us to think collectively about what that might mean, so that we can play the best role in that governing role. So I'm gonna ask Regent Davenport. You had another comment?
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Taglioni. It fits with what you were saying, in that the work of this committee, I think there's a sweet spot where I think looking at Regent Johnson, who has an extensive amount of experience in government relations and other things, but you are not direct reports to us, and we need to kind of, what you're saying, what's the appropriate role, so that we play the appropriate role here and interface with you appropriately, and we don't want to just hear a presentation and okay, check. So it's somewhere in between there where I think we can be of value, and so that goes to you.
Madam Chair, I volunteer to wrap us up.
Okay.
Graciously, thank you very much. Just a brief comment. We all agree this is an area we can improve on, but I don't want us to attribute all our woes to that. If we're talking about enrollment, it's a marketing issue. When we have subpar results at the legislature, it's a messaging issue. If we survey Minnesotans on the impact of our research, they're not quite getting it, it's a messaging issue. I think 80% of that is true. We have to delineate and figure out what the 20% is that probably is honest feedback that we need to take and maybe improve on. Just delineate where the marketing issues are and where we're actually hearing from the different constituencies and need to actually address certain things. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Kenyanya. And so everything that we spoke about, we have to work on, right, Mr. Dombach? So thank you for a great discussion, and we'll move on to our next item. Our second item is a presentation from Ms. Aronson, the university's Chief Marketing Officer, on the new system-wide marketing campaign. I'd like to welcome Ms. Aronson to the presenters table. And Ms. Aronson.
Thank you, Chair Robbie and members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk about this year's reputation marketing campaign. Mr. Tom Barge and I are joined by Ms. Laura Johnson, Account Services Director from University Relations, who will help us navigate the presentation. I hope it's okay to talk about love at a Board of Regents subcommittee meeting. I guess we're about to find out. Like Tina Turner, you might ask, Anne, what's love got to do with it? Well, this year's marketing campaign is all about love. It's called Dear Minnesota, and it's a love letter to our state. Quite literally, because it takes the form of personal letters from faculty, staff, and students, telling Minnesotans, reminding them that the university is working to make our lives better and our state healthier by curing diseases, solving societal problems, and educating the next generation of leaders. In a few minutes, I'll give you a sneak peek. But first, let's talk about and look at how we got here and understand why we need this campaign. In 2005, we were facing a wake-up moment. Look at the year in the lower left-hand quadrant. Only 39% of the public at that time thought U of M research was important, and only 24% thought we were good at it. To improve these dismally low public perceptions, we did our first external reputation marketing campaign and launched the Driven to Discover brand. We created Driven to Discover with input from countless people throughout the university and the state. We pressure tested it with research and crafted a brand that I'm proud to say has endured, been honored, but most importantly, has worked hard for this university and shown results year after year. And what we found over the years is that our brand inspires and connects to people's desire to make the world better. Driven to Discover expresses our value, who we are, and why we are here. It expresses our drive to discover answers to the world's problems, but also students' drive to discover who they are in the world and what they want to be in it. Each Driven to Discover campaign is different. Each campaign is designed to respond to the university's needs of the moment. So depending on what we need to communicate at the time, for instance, the value of research, or our economic impact, or the contributions of our students, each campaign has a different theme and message and a fresh look and feel. Campaigns change from year to year, but the brand Driven to Discover is consistent. So what happened after 2005? Over the next 13 years, we dramatically raised both research metrics. Look at 2018. It's in the upper right-hand quadrant. Exactly where we wanted it to be, where the public felt our research was important and that we performed it well. Now, fast track to today. We face another wake-up moment. Our last reputation marketing campaign was in the spring of 2020. Today, after more than 3 years of being out of the marketplace, public perceptions about U of M research have slipped to dangerous lows. Look at 2022 in the lower right-hand quadrant. There is a 27% decrease from 2018 in the public's perception of how well we perform at research. Fortunately, the public still sees our research as important, but that perception too has decreased by almost 10%. The good news is we think that we have the right message for this moment and the very campaign to get us back on track and reverse these trends. Let's take a look. This year's campaign is designed to do 3 things. Remind Minnesotans that U of M research benefits them, increase positive perceptions of the university among state opinion leaders and the public, and reverse the trend of declining perceptions of our research prowess. The Dear Minnesota campaign is made up of video love letters to our state. These are in the voices of faculty, staff, and students who share their passion of how the U of M benefits Minnesotans. And who better to share the first letter than our interim president, Jeff Ettinger, as a champion for the amazing work going on here. The campaign is system-wide. It includes videos, or as we call them, spots, from each campus. Now I'm going to show you the 7 campaign spots, all in a row. Each one is 30 seconds, so this will last about 3.5 minutes.
Dear Minnesota, I'm Jeff Ettinger, interim president at the University of Minnesota. My family has deep U of M roots, but what I've learned is that we all do. Every Minnesotan benefits from our spirit of discovery, from slowing the effects of aging and shaping the future of renewable energy, to preserving our lakes and accelerating the education of health sciences students. What we do for you. So when we say Hail Minnesota, it truly is Hail to Thee.
Dear Minnesota, I'm Amber Murray, science educator at the University of Minnesota Crookston, and I want to show you something really cool. That's Edna, and that's the kaleidoscope she made to understand light reflection at one of our STEM campus experiences. See, we're hard at work providing opportunities like these for rural K-12 schools, because the more exposure to science and technology, the more discoveries they'll make. This is your university, Minnesota.
Dear Minnesota, I'm Dr. Julie Ederson from the University of Minnesota Duluth. Like you, we worry about how climate change will affect something we all love, our trees. Here in Duluth, we've been collecting tree seeds from across the state so that we can study their ability to survive climate change. And we're engaging farmers to grow variations that are hardier. That's your university, Minnesota, fighting climate change and making sure we all have shade.
Dear Minnesota, I'm Troy Goodnow, Sustainability Director at the University of Minnesota Morris. I love telling people that rural Minnesota has the recipe for renewable energy. How? Start with Bert and Ernie, our very own wind turbines. Mix in fields of solar, and our campus is 100% carbon neutral. But with the latest in energy storage and a healthy mix of community partnerships, renewables work for everyone, everywhere. That's your university, Minnesota. Endless energy for discovery.
Dear Minnesota, I'm Akil, a student at the University of Minnesota Rochester. I'm a swimmer, musician, volunteer, and dog dad. I pack a lot into a day. That's why I love the Next Gen program. It gets me into a health sciences degree in 2.5 years. My professors designed it from their research on optimal student learning. So, in the wag of a tail, I'll be out helping Minnesotans live happier, healthier lives. Rest easy, Minnesota. Your university's got a healthy dose of discovery for all of us.
Dear Minnesota, I'm Dr. Laura Niederhofer, scientist at the University of Minnesota. I lead a team that studies the biology of aging. For years, we've been focused on these guys. They're called senescent cells, and they hang around as we age, causing everything from arthritis to heart disease. Clear those senescent cells out, and we'll live healthier as we age. We're in clinical trials right now, thanks to a constant spirit of discovery. That's your university, Minnesota, advancing life and the quality of it.
Dear Minnesota, I am Professor Junaid Sattar. I didn't grow up here in Minnesota, but I love our lakes. I also love working where there's a spirit of discovery, tackling real problems, like how to keep our lakes free of invasive species. And this stuff. How do we do it? With a swimming robot. And a spirit of never-ending curiosity that straps on the fins and goggles and gets to work. So swim proud, Minnesota. The Minibot swims for you.
Climate change. Climate change, healthy aging, water quality, K-12 education, renewable energy. Why did we choose these topics for the campaign? We chose them first because they are currently at the top of the list of issues that Minnesotans care about. Second, because these are areas where the university is a leader. And finally, because we can capture these stories with compelling images and messaging. I should also note that we always work closely with our campuses and colleges to choose the campaign stories. Here are a few examples of what the campaign's other elements look like. These are the first print ads you'll see. They'll appear in Minnesota Alumni Magazine. This is the campaign microsite. It's part of our system website. All our ads and messages will direct people to visit the microsite. There they can learn more about a topic in the campaign and find links to further information. We even make it easy for people to give to a fund that's related to the topic. When you watch the campaign spots, you probably notice the call to action at the end of each. This is our request to the community to tell us their Dear Minnesota stories. We ask, what would you like Minnesotans to know about the University of Minnesota and how it has made your life better or the lives of others? We'll put these stories on the campaign microsite and post them on social media and in other ways. And we'll share them with our colleagues across the university so they can amplify those stories on their channels and with their audiences. Here's the campaign ecosystem. It shows the variety of communication channels in which the campaign will appear. This reflects all the kinds of channels we'll be using. Those we pay for, like television and radio, those we own, like our own social media channels and digital screens, and the earned media, which is what the media will cover about us, we hope. We have a robust paid media plan. It launches later this month and runs through May. Our target audience is the Minnesota general public and opinion leaders. Our primary vehicles for reaching them will be online, television, and radio. Television includes local network stations like News, plus streaming channels like YouTube and Hulu. You'll also see our spots on the Big Ten network. The ads will run on digital sites that our audiences frequent. This could be news sites, entertainment sites, even shopping sites, and of course, social media sites. We'll be running radio across the state on stations like NPR, the Linder Farm Network, and stations in every campus community, as well as streaming radio like Sirius and Spotify. This media plan is robust, and between traditional and digital media, we'll be reaching 100% of our target audience. Marketing is a team sport. For our campaign messages to truly resonate, they need to be carried through consistently in all our communications. Our advertising, PR, internal communications, community events, speeches, and much more. To do this, we share with our campuses, colleges, units, and leaders the responsibility of reinforcing the campaign messages. We provide assets and templates that allow anyone to customize their messages and stories and thereby extend the campaign even further. We hope you will echo these messages, share stories, or just use Dear Minnesota language when you're engaging with the community. Now, Mr. Tombarge is going to talk about how public relations and internal communications will support this year's campaign.
A system-wide marketing campaign actually provides significant opportunities to the university's other reputation-building activities, both internally and externally. And as many of you know, the University Relations PR team focuses on media relations in close partnership with all of our colleges and campuses and units, as well as efforts to manage issues and crises on behalf of the university. We also specifically serve all of you as board members, in addition to the president and other university leaders, in how we represent the university to the media and other communication vehicles. So each of these efforts actually give us an opportunity to reinforce the Dear Minnesota themes, tell the stories, expand the message of this campaign. And in fact, with significant thanks to the University of Minnesota Foundation, we're going to be able to extend that PR effort with some extra capacity on our team over the coming year so that our day-to-day work doesn't have to be diverted to make sure that this message is carried. In internal communications, we'll be using these themes as well. Our internal communications team in University Relations works closely with every other unit in the university system, acknowledging that they all do internal communications as well. And so we'll be working closely with the marketing team to make sure that there are templates, tools, and other materials that can be personalized for local stakeholders and parts of the organization. And the goal here is to crowdsource those Dear Minnesota stories. From frontline workers to faculty, to first-year students, graduating seniors, professional and graduate students. All of these parts of our university community are an important part of the Dear Minnesota story, and we want them to be able to see how they're part of the university's legacy. With that, I'll turn it back to Ms. Aronson to finish the presentation.
Thank you. You may ask, how do we know this campaign will resonate? We always gather external and internal input before we launch a campaign. We've tested the campaign ads with our external audiences and internal leaders, including marketing and communication leaders. In testing with the general public and opinion leaders, here's what we found. After viewing the campaign ads, U of M favorability increased by 13%. 9 out of 10 respondents said the ads resonated with them. And over 50% of respondents said their perception of our research was now more favorable. And you can see some of the positive responses from our internal leaders here, and a few more here. And these are in the docket, so you can read them more fully. We know that trust in higher education is low. Reputation marketing is critical for communicating our value to the public. It increases pride and connection among our alumni, donors, students, faculty, and staff, and of course, the citizens of Minnesota. It's essential for effective fundraising. It strengthens our student recruitment efforts. Our Driven to Discover brand is prominent in our recruitment marketing. And our research tells us that those who see campaign messages are more likely to feel positive about us and support us. When we ask the public for support, whether it's donations or advocacy or just to speak favorably about us, we need people to understand and believe in our value. If they've seen our campaign messages, they're more likely to remember us and think, oh yeah, the U is doing that great work. I'll give to that fund, or I will call that legislator. Finally, where do we go from here? As always, we'll conduct market research to test the effectiveness of the campaign, and we will make the case for sustained reputation campaign funding. It takes years to build public awareness, loyalty, and support. As we know from our research, when our message is absent, our great work is not seen and remembered, and our public support quickly declines. We believe that Dear Minnesota will help us raise public perceptions and build confidence in the university. I hope you do too. I'm happy to hear comments and answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Aronson, Ms. Johnson, and Mr. Tombarge for a great presentation. Regents, let's turn to discussion. Any comments, questions, concerns? Regent Davenport.
Thank you. Chair, I have one question, which is the seen and remembered piece of this. I remember when the Discover campaign came out, I was in another system, and it was like, wow, right in my face. And thinking, wow, we don't have anything like that. And so one of the things that happened, you were on billboards. Are you planning to do billboards, bus routes, and that kind of thing?
Chair Tayurabi, Regent Davenport, that's a great question. For this year, we are not. We looked at billboards. Digital TV and radio is the most effective and efficient way for us to reach the majority of our target audiences. Also, the message that we have, we didn't feel was really appropriate for billboards. It would be hard in a 3-second drive-by. That said, if we had increased funding, it's always better to have as much of a variety of different kinds of media as possible, because then people, like you said, see it here and they see it here and there, but.
And it's expensive.
And it's expensive, yes. Thank you.
Regent Gully?
I just want to say thank you so much, and I love this campaign. And I had the good luck to be part of the Driven to Discover campaign years ago, and also thought that that was great. But I love the way that this ties, and this is so much about like sort of in line with what I've been thinking. I love that it really ties the work that we're doing to the future of the state, and the video messages are just like, they're beautiful and really nice, and I can see like watching them, and I hate ads for the most part, and I can see like really so which is just fantastic. So thank you. I also loved the way that, I just wanted to mention, I loved the way that at the end it like highlighted the, just in the way that it brought the word out, like highlighted the campus that it was part of. And and I think it does a great job of that. And anything that we can do to sort of like highlight the non-Twin Cities campuses and really showcase how the campuses bring different things to the University of Minnesota system, I think is just fantastic. And it's something that I've heard from folks on the non-Twin Cities campuses, on all the other campuses, right, is that they feel like sometimes they don't get that sort of like attention. And so I just thought that was really a nice touch, and I would love to see more of that. And one of the things that I have also been thinking about is just like how we sort of differentiate the campuses and show like, hey, if you're thinking about going to the University of Minnesota, yeah, there's the Twin Cities campus that is strong in these ways, but there's also these other campuses that have really different sort of things and character and programs, and so I think this does such a nice job of it, and I just want to say I'm excited to see it, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Regent Farnsworth?
Thank you, Chair Talirabe. I also appreciated this, getting to know this campaign and this presentation. I really like to see the connection with UMF and the Alumni Association. Maybe it's because we were only just seeing snippets of this, but would love to see more alumni voices in this. I'm just a big believer in alumni relations in general. I happen to think our Alumni Association is really good. That goes without saying, but and I saw Lisa's endorsement of this, which I think is important, along with all the other internal leaders' endorsement. I was also, and you actually ended up touching on this, I was thinking until you got to this slide at the end about why is reputational marketing important, I'm thinking about our connection to recruitment efforts, and would love to also see, so I understand that some of these examples were connected back to the slide about issues that Minnesotans care about and topics. I would love to see more campus life examples in our videos, because I think that's so important to not just student audiences, and I know students are not necessarily the primary audience of a broader campaign as this, but there's, I think, beautiful campus life examples on all of our campuses to highlight through video, and where the average student, who again is a part one stakeholder in this thing, may not be as interested in the video about water quality or healthy aging, but would love to see some really great visual examples of campus life. And then since Regent Davenport talked about two examples of platforms with the bus routes and the billboards, I was thinking about TikTok. I get not surprised, I spend a lot of time on TikTok, and I get a lot of highlighted examples, and maybe I'm probably in the minority of that, but I think I did a search, I don't even know if I'm on TikTok, I was trying to search for us the other day, but I get a lot of University of Michigan TikToks in my face, and one, just one recently where they were interviewing parents at drop off, and they did kind of, I just would love to see us do more of TikTok. That's always been my thing, and I think there's some value to that beyond just my interest in it. So, anyways, other than that, though, to what Regent Gully said and what everyone else said, I think this is a great personal approach that highlights the work that we're doing, and I really liked to see how much we're elevating our sister campuses, because I think that's incredibly important, so thank you.
I want to pause and see if Ms. Aronson, Ms. Johnson, Mr. Tombarge, if you want to respond to any of the.
Sure. Chair Tyarabi, Regent Farnsworth, we love TikTok too. And we have our own channel, which I will send to you immediately. But for this particular campaign, the TikTok audience isn't really our audience, and it's more of a student under 25, younger audience. And so we use TikTok a lot for our recruitment marketing efforts. And it's a very important vehicle for that. But we haven't, but it isn't part of the mix for this campaign.
Thank you. Regent Kenyanya.
Yeah, thank you. Yesterday when we had lunch with the student reps, they encouraged us to start a board social media pages. So this idea is catching steam. But I appreciate the presentation. Regent Farnsworth kind of started going where my question was. So I have this slide here where we talk about the issues: climate change, healthy aging, K-12 water quality. Are we, and I imagine we are, trying to target the different letters to different audiences? Obviously, it depends on the medium, but especially online, digital, I think there's an ability to kind of tailor them maybe geographically and whatnot. Are we thinking about that? Because I think different people would identify with different things here.
Yeah, Chair Tyarabi, Regent Kenyanya. Those topic areas were areas of highest importance to the great large group of 5 million Minnesotans. And so we are not targeting just those who are interested in water quality or K-12 education, but we are depending on our partners to do that. So those at the campuses and those researchers who are part of those stories, they know those markets. And so they're going to take those and activate them with the audiences that they know care most about those. But because we know their broad interests, the campaign itself is meant to reach a really broad audience.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I care about all of them. So, so you got me. But that makes sense, right? I mean, there's probably in your longer list, there's other issues that really would have been more niche. These were a little more broader. So I guess, and I don't know the effort, cost benefit, analysis there, but I think there may be, even in small ways, like for example, I think one of the letters was talking about, I think it was Morris or Crookston, bringing the kids on campus and talking about providing these opportunities to greater Minnesota kids. I think we can push that ad a little more in greater Minnesota. So, but that makes sense. These were the more general ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Regent Kenyanya. And I just want to also say that I heard in the presentation that there will be templates and things that will be created for use. And I do think that we've heard on our visits that different regions or areas have different sort of concerns or, just relations with the university. So I think that approach that you talked about, Regent Kenyanya, in terms of being able to think about which messages might resonate with which region or area and how to elevate that, but also creating those templates and really supporting different campuses to use that, I think would be helpful. I saw Regent Johnson.
Actually, we're running out of time, so I can save my question for next time. It looks like we still have the Executive Director for Government Relations.
Thank you. All right.
Chair, could I just make one comment?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear you just wanted to try to save the time, but I really want to take this opportunity to express my pride in the team in coming up with this campaign. I think it's an appropriate message. I think the appropriate messengers. I think that the ads have a great tone, and I like that we unabashedly are promoting our system. And so I really just appreciate this came together in quite a rapid period of time, and we're poised now to really launch it and have great effect.
Thank you, Interim President Enger. So we'll move on to our final item of today, which is An introduction, I'll turn it over to Interim President Enger to introduce the university's new Executive Director for Government and Community Relations.
Thank you so much, Regent Taurabe. You know, when I came on the board, one of the main priorities for both the board and for me was to identify an impactful, effective new leader for our government relations efforts. I'm very happy to say we found that person. Melissa Lopez-Franzen is the university's new Executive Director of Government and Community Relations, filling this crucial leadership position. She'll report directly to me, and she will be a key member of the senior leadership team. She's already come to her first cabinet meeting, which was earlier this week. Melissa comes to us with a deep and diverse experience in nonprofits, in corporate, in government leadership, and in community engagement, including a decade of service in the Minnesota Senate and a leadership role there as well. Her background positions her well for her new role, where she will lead our advocacy efforts for the entire university system in St. Paul, in Washington, D.C., and among our many community partners and neighbors throughout Minnesota. She and her team will be advancing work in partnership with local, state, and federal officials while building and strengthening relationships with a broad group of stakeholders. Melissa is a knowledgeable and dynamic leader, and I am confident that she's going to build a balanced, hands-on, and effective government and community relations team to advocate for the university and to advance the work we do every day to serve all Minnesotans. It's my pleasure to introduce Executive Director Lopez-Franzen, and she's all but 9 days in, but we wanted to give her an opportunity to talk with the board and for you to meet her in person. So if I can turn it over to our new Executive Director.
Thank you, Chair Taurabe and President Ettinger, for this opportunity, and thank you for having me. It's been quite the 9 days, but I'm delighted to be here and look forward to working not only with the board, but with this committee to tackle the many opportunities that we have to increase the university's capacity in government and community relations at the local, state, and federal levels, and with Minnesota's tribal nations. Our role is ever more important to serve as a tool for our students, for our faculty, our staff, and to the board to align our shared priorities as a system and to amplify that narrative with elected and government officials. I know many of you have been familiar with the expression row the boat from PJ Fleck. I often use the phrase row in the same direction. With shared priorities, we are stronger and we will go farther. We have an exceptional brand and a breadth of stories to share. When COVID struck and there were gaps in the healthcare system, teams across multiple U of M colleges were at work within hours developing innovative equipment, new understandings of things like airflow, viral spread, broadening public health awareness, and anti-aging tests, which we were able to expedite to consumers through a unique partnership with the Mayo Clinic. We also have many opportunities at the federal level. For example, Department of Defense funding of the U of M compared to other university systems of our size is lacking. Our Vice President of Research, Shashank Priya, is leading that charge, and our office will collaborate and coordinate more purposefully with our federal delegation on these opportunities. At the state capitol, I understand the importance of being connected and increasing our presence with voices from U of M students, staff, and regents. Doing so with one unified voice will only strengthen and build relationships and build trust. To be clear, increasing our advocacy and presence does not only happen during a legislative session or when Congress is in session. This work is ongoing throughout the year, throughout the state, in local communities, with elected officials, and across our 5 campuses, and statewide research and outreach activities. My job is to partner, collaborate, and assist you in coordinating our efforts so we row in the same direction, we speak from the same shared priorities, and we amplify our narrative. Minnesotans have high expectations of the University of Minnesota. And in order to meet those expectations, we have to constantly listen to the good, the bad, and the ugly, and act accordingly. Rest assured, I will listen and work in the best interest of our institution. I owe not only my master's degree from the U of M's Humphrey School of Public Affairs, but also my family. I met my husband 22 years ago in a graduate statistics class. And I also owe this university the start of my career. I'm eager to be in this role at a pivotal time in higher education and for our state. And I stand for any questions that I can answer being 9 days into the role.
Thank you, Interim President Enger and Executive Director Lopez Frenzen. We're thrilled to have you on board. Regents, any comments? Oh, sorry. I was just looking at you. Regent Kenyatta.
She's probably gonna say something anyway, but she was looking at me. I don't have a question, particularly because of your caveat at the end there, 9 days in. I would just want to welcome you and express appreciation. We're glad to have you on the team. Your reputation precedes you, and we know this is an area we want to put more effort in, and I think you're going to be a valuable part of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Regent Gully.
Melissa, I just wanted to say hi and welcome, and I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm really excited to work together in this way. So,
Thank you.
welcome.
Regent Farnsworth.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just echo the same thing. Really excited to work with you. I think all of us, not just on this committee, but on the board, are very interested in doing what we can to partner and collaborate in this area, especially as people who are sitting here because we are elected by the legislature, and just see a lot of opportunities to hopefully be of service and partner under your leadership and strategic advice that you're bringing through all the various people that you're going to be working with to craft that. And so welcome and look forward to working together.
All right, I think we're 2 minutes over. So with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.